Tributes are pouring in from South Carolina lawmakers following the passing of Senator Lindsey Graham. South Carolina Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace sharing today, quote, "South Carolina lost a giant." The Congresswoman joins me now. Welcome, Congresswoman. I'm sorry for the circumstances, but I'm glad to have you today.
Thank you, Mike. I think everyone in South Carolina here today, we were just stunned and shocked. Nobody saw this coming. Senator Lindsey Graham was a gentle giant who dedicated his life to serving our state and to serving our country. And he did so admirably. He did so well. He was one of the closest friends of the President of the United States, and he brought so much home to our state. We all have a lot to be grateful for his service and his fight here in South Carolina.
South Carolina is a huge military state. I know Senator Graham wore the military uniform at one point in his career. What about him standing up for the men and women in uniform, not only in South Carolina, but across this great country?
He did so all the time, and because he wore the uniform, he knew the sacrifices they were making when they were going into conflict. And it's one of the reasons he was so passionate, but also so successful in the Senate. I mean, we're talking about the chairman of the Budget Committee, a man and a senator who golfs with the President of the United States all the time, and was one of President Trump's, I believe, closest confidants on foreign policy, foreign affairs, military affairs, etc. He served his country admirably. And, you know, every time he walked into a room or walked into a hearing or walked into a meeting, he was always ready for the fight. And he had that fighting South Carolina spirit that we've had for hundreds of years, whether you agreed with him or not. He was always willing to fight for his values, for his fellow statesmen and fellow countrymen. It was pretty amazing to watch. I don't think you'll see anyone else quite like him. I think he'll go down as historic in the work that he did and the fighting he did. I look at Kavanaugh, what he did when they tried to ambush him in the Senate. I mean, the guy was just a force to be reckoned with.
Some of my memories of him from covering him are his humor, his wit. As an elected official from South Carolina, you're with him at some events over the years, and I'm curious what your reflections are of that personality and that sense of humor.
He always had a great personality. When I first came into Congress, he was what I would call a mentor to me, because I was walking into this, larger than life U.S. House of Representatives, and he's seasoned. He'd been there for a while. We had many meetings and many phone calls on how to navigate Washington, D.C., on how to navigate legislation, on how to be a good, strong voice for South Carolina. And he always gave me the best advice. And truly serving with him was the honor of a lifetime. And one of the things that will go down as Lindsey Graham's legacy is his constituent services. Anytime anyone from South Carolina needed anything, Lindsey Graham was always with you. And I always told people, if my office can't do it, then we're going to get with Lindsey Graham's office to do it. And anytime that our district here in the 1st District of South Carolina in the Low Country needed money for roads or bridges or dredging or something along the coast unique to our quality of life, he was always there for us. And so his constituent services were unlike any other.
Any sense of what your governor will do short term about this seat? I know the news is fresh and shocking, so he may not have gotten that far, but I'm curious if you have a sense of what's immediately to come.
I would say it's all still very raw right now. We're all still sitting here in shock. We're stunned, quite frankly. I know that there have been a lot of calls between different leadership posts here and there. I actually texted the governor this morning and I suggested he should nominate himself to be that interim person, someone who can be divested, who can hold the lane for Lindsey Graham for the next 6 months. There will be a very short primary, about 3 or 4 weeks, quite frankly, special election, probably looking like August 11th. But in the meantime, I know that right now we're all just stunned that this has happened. Nobody was ready for it. And there are a lot of folks mourning across the state of South Carolina and across the country tonight.
Longer term, he was on the ballot this fall. You ran for governor. Are you considering running for his seat eventually?
I would say right now, my focus is on South Carolina. I think we're all still just sitting here stunned and shocked that this has happened, and we're mourning his loss. I'm never going to shut the door. I love the state of South Carolina. You only live once, and If the people of South Carolina would like me to serve in that capacity, I'll certainly take a look at it. But right now, I just want to focus on him and his legacy, what he did for the state. He was sort of like, I always envisioned him that he would live to 100, that he would be serving South Carolina like Strom Thurmond for decades and bring home all the resources we would ever need and then some, which is what he did in his career. And that's what we're focusing on right now is his life, his legacy, his legend, as Trump so well aptly described this morning on all of his TV interviews.
Final thoughts about his family, his staff, and those who were so close to him over many decades?
Our prayers are with his staff right now. They were one of the most dedicated Hill staff offices to any member of Congress in either chamber. But also when Lindsey Graham's parents died, he was the one that adopted his sister and took care of her her entire life. And so you're talking about a man who gave up everything in his life to serve his country and to serve his family. And that's the legacy that he leaves and that we want to be talking about in the days ahead.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace, thank you very much for joining us on a sad day.
Thank you.
Great to have you.
Thank you, and God bless.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.